Connie Inukai joining us, the grandmapreneur, co-creator, founder, and so many great things. She's created 4 stages in life. So let's bring Connie over. Hi, Connie.
Hi, can you hear me today?
Yes, you are clear.
Loud
Perfect.
and clear.
Wonderful. Well, it's so nice to be here. And by the way, Dawn, I love your wand. And I have one too. Can you see
love
this?
that. I do. Everyone should have a wand. I love it with the hearts.
Yeah, this is because I have a 4-year-old granddaughter who lives with me. And her mom made wands for her and her friends. They went outside and they picked up some sticks from outside. And then they decorated the wands.
Would you do me a huge favor? Could you send me one, please?
Yes.
Because I have to, this is one collection of wands. I have another one in my other studio, and I collect them. And I would love if your granddaughter would send one. I can use it and add it to my collection of wands.
You don't mind it on a stick?
No, I would love it on a stick. I think that is actually perfect because that's how she created it. I love that idea.
I even have my wand. See my wand?
Do you want one too?
This is that.
Freddie,
do you like one too from a 4-year-old?
Yeah, I would like one.
Okay, so I'll send 2.
I love it. What's her name, Connie?
Victoria.
Victoria. I love that. What a great idea.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. Actually, we didn't get inspired by you. She just likes wands also.
You know what? You got to live your passion and your purpose and do what you love.
So that's why she actually designed this. So I'll have her design one for you.
Actually, you know what, Connie? We have a kids network that we air on. We'll get to your interview in a second. Sorry. We have a kids network that we air on Saturdays about kids inspiring kids, and that would be really cool. Maybe we can film her and get a whole craft project on how to make a wand.
Okay, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. I have an 8-year-old grandson also. They both live with me. That's why I call myself grandmapreneur.
I love the grandmapreneur. So let's talk about you. You've been through many stages in life, and everyone says the 3rd stage. You actually tell us you're on your 4th.
Yes.
Give us some background on who you are and where you are now.
Okay, so I used to be a writing teacher at the University of Maryland and at Johns Hopkins University for 40 years. Wow. Okay, so I'm old.
No.
And when I retired, I kind of had to retire. I retired at age 68 because I had so many things that I wanted to do. And I used to, if you ever went to college, you know how you pull all-nighters for 4 or 5 years to get through? Well, I was pulling all-nighters for 40 years.
Wow.
So I actually retired and became an inventor. That was my 2nd act. So I became an inventor because I had this idea burning in my head. I have lots of inventions in my head, but one of them I actually followed through with it. And I think you mentioned that last week. This is my tip and split.
The tip and split. It's such a great idea. I was telling Freddie, it's funny that you're a writing teacher because we just love to tease Freddie on his writing and his English, not because of anything other than he's a good sport. See, she understands cathartic versus lethargic. But this tip and split idea, I told him about it. He says he needs one. It's a calculator with a magnifying glass and a light. Figures out the tip if you're out with other people. You don't have to take out your phone anymore.
In the restaurant.
Yes.
Yes.
And it happened. There was a story. I went to a restaurant and I put my light on, and somebody was next to me was talking to me, and I went like this. I hit the waiter in the face with the light. There was spaghetti everywhere. I was so embarrassed. I put the phone down. I said, we should leave now.
Well, I have my own little light on here. I have a little light that's not so distracting that I built into this. So it's mainly for older people who like to go out and we can't read the menu because the print is too small on either the menu or the bill. So I have a magnifier on it, and then in the light. And then I also, just to make it easy, to make it a little fun, in 3 seconds you can figure out a tip and split the bill. So I'll send that along with the wand. Okay?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. She's going to send us one with the wand.
So we can split the bill. So let me get this right. When you go to a restaurant, if you can't read or it's too dark, I know you don't put on your glasses. I know for a fact you don't put on your
True.
glasses. So what do?
Sometimes I'll ask the waiter what's good. I'm usually pretty good at reading the menu. It's by the time you get the bill at the end. And actually our crew, and they're young, they said after they've had a few drinks, they're having a hard time deciphering the bill, so even they would love it.
I
Well,
want one
actually-
for the bar. For
You want one for the bar? So me as a
because
bartender.
a lot of people, I have to read the menu to people all the time, and I also we have a flashlight back there to give to people who can't read because it's too dark. So I need one of
It's dark.
those.
Why is it so freaking dark?
Yeah.
To set the
mood lighting.
mood.
See, Connie,
it's
it's not
for
just for
Set the
older people, it's
mood.
for everybody.
Everybody, Connie, because it's so freaking dark. I ordered spinach thinking it was spaghetti, you know? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's true, though.
Well, I had so much fun inventing this because, you know, I know the problem, you know, with my vision. So I came up with a solution for it. And I also know that I usually ask the server also what's good. Or I ask, you know, I ask my kids, if I'm out with my kids, can you read it for me? So, so I invented this, and I had no idea how to invent anything. But I actually did it.
How did you do it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I had the idea, and my ex-husband is a brilliant engineer and mathematician. So I called him up and I told him my idea. He's Japanese. That's why my name, Inukai, is so hard to say. But I told him what I wanted to do. So he actually developed all the algorithms to make this run smoothly. And my ex-husband actually was in satellite communications, and he actually figured out where on Earth and on space to make communication easier.
Wow.
He used to work for Lockheed Martin, and so he's a brilliant man. So he actually did all of the algorithms to make this. So I was really lucky. Neither one of us knew what we were doing.
So I got to ask you a question. Let me ask
Yes.
you a question. So you are a writing English professor by trade.
Yes.
Your
Yes.
husband is a scientific math logistical person for Lockheed Martin. How are your kids?
My kids.
Brilliant, I would think.
Yeah, they're very smart.
Yeah.
My oldest son does works with network security, and he's a great asset to me because he fixes everything that I need to know about computers. He was trying to fix my sound while I was on the phone with you.
Last week, yeah.
He does that, and he lives in Arizona, and he actually came here about 2 weeks ago, and he says, "Mom, I know you like to be on Zoom calls, and my office was so dark." And so what my son did is he spent 1 week here, and he fixed my whole office, and he actually installed a light on top of me. So my office is very bright. He also put in a webcam. I used to have a mic, and he said that doesn't work so well, so he set up a webcam
Wow.
for me that has better sound. And he just did everything for me. And whenever I have a problem, like I call him. So he's that. And my second son lives in LA, and he's brilliant also. And he actually was the CIO of the Screen Actors Guild.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's 40 years old. My first son is 42, and my second son is 40, and he just retired from that job, and he's now the CIO of the George Lucas Museum that's being built in Los Angeles.
Wow,
So-
that's awesome.
Yeah. So he's working from home, and it was just started this year, 2020. So I'm going to be invited to, I was actually invited to some Screen Actors Guild ceremonies, and now I'm going to get invited to the George Lucas Museum, and he works directly under George Lucas.
My
So
son
you
would go
asked
crazy.
if my children are brilliant, and my third child is my daughter, and she lives with me. She's brilliant also, but she's artsy crafty, and it was actually her idea to make the wand.
You gotta
So,
love it.
Yeah, so I'm really lucky. I have 3 children and 5 grandchildren.
That's amazing. And now you created your tip and split. You did 40 years of being a professor, Johns Hopkins nonetheless, tip and split, and then you wrote a book during a pandemic because, heck, you had nothing else to do in retirement.
Well, that's my second book.
Wow.
My first book, which I wrote, is about my invention. And this is my book. And it's called How I Got My Product on QVC, The Today Show, The View, and more in my retirement. And so I have 8 tips on how to get publicity. So what I'll do is, anybody who wants this book,
Want that too?
I can give it to you for free.
He wants that too, Connie.
Put it in the box.
Put it in the package.
Yeah, well, you can get it actually a PDF form if you just sign up for grandmapreneurinventor.com.
Okay.
You'll get it automatically. You don't even have to wait for the mail. So I'm doing that because I have, I'm old and I've got a lot of ideas, but I have no idea how to build a mailing list. I have only 10 people on my mailing list, and I just, I don't know what to do. So I decided I would build a mailing list. So I have a website where I can collect email addresses, and then you can get everything that I'm doing.
What
So
are some
this
of the
is-
tips in your book?
The
For
first
publicity?
tip,
Yeah.
the first tip I say is to be persistent. And I do this from my life experience. And I'm going to tell you, actually, a story about being persistent is when I went to an inventors trade show with my product, supposedly with my product, but my manufacturer disappointed me, and I didn't have my product ready. And they had a panel from QVC there, and I actually pitched to QVC, but I didn't have a product.
Wow.
So I just pitched it with pictures of what my product was supposed to look like, and I was so embarrassed. But they loved my idea, and they said, well, come back when you have a product. We love you, but come back when you have a product. So I went there the next year, and I said, oh, I said, I met you last year. Do you remember me? And they said, yes, we do. So I said, I have my product now. So I pitched my tip and split, and they immediately put me on QVC.
Holy
So I'm
smokes.
kind of persistent.
Wow.
And another thing about being persistent, because I've been thinking about my life. When I was a teacher, I started out teaching English as a second language because I was a French major and a Spanish minor. And so I wanted to get a job at Columbia University because I lived in New York. So I walked over to Columbia University and I said, I'd like to have a job here teaching English. And they said, do you have a master's? And I said, nope. So they said, come back when you have one. So I walked across campus and I signed up to get a master's. And it took me only 1 year. And then 1 year later, I walked back to the director and I said, I have a master's now. Can I have a job? So they hired me. So like my first tip is to always be persistent. A no doesn't really mean a no. You have to ask them, why is it a no? What do I need to do to make it into a yes?
Wow.
So I think that that's like a really good tip for anybody. Don't take a no and then turn it into a yes.
That's a
And
great tip. How many have
I
you
think-
sold? How many tip and splits did you sell on QVC?
I sold 800 on QVC. No, actually, no, 1,500. I sold 1,500. And actually, I'm going to go on Home Shopping Network for Christmas. My only problem is I hope people will buy it because not many people are going out to restaurants these days, especially older people. So I'm hoping that changes. But who's the lady who has a restaurant?
Mia.
I work in a restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll send you one. And by the way, I invented something else. I haven't used it yet. Let me just go get it.
Yeah, I think that's such a good idea. We
That would
need
be
one
great
at
to
the
keep
restaurant.
at your restaurant at the bars, right?
Yeah, and just give it to people who are like struggling to read it and be like, you can hold on to this while you're here and they'll be so happy. maybe sell more of them for you.
And what is that?
So I made this. It's a little triangle that you can put on the table if you see somebody, if you have people who are older and can't see it. And on one side it has like maybe the specialty drinks, and on the other side it can have specials. But on the front it has a tip and split that just comes right out. And it says, "Forgot your reading glasses? Need more light? We understand. So tonight, turn off your smartphone and text and enjoy the food and ambiance."
Oh,
I haven't sold any of these,
She's
but
loving this.
I kind of want to do it. And I only have one because I made this by myself. I just found this triangle and I made, inserts into it. And you can put your own restaurant's name on top. And because I would love to have it in restaurants.
That's
But I
brilliant.
can't send you that one because I only have one.
yeah. I think that one's also a great idea because now everyone's switching to virtual menus. And a lot of the time, older people don't know how to pull up the menu on their phone, and I have to show them that too. So if we had like a menu that I could just give and sanitize and then show people, that's also a really good idea.
Yeah, so when you're an inventor, you're always getting ideas. And I think that the true fact is that almost everybody has an invention in their head. Do you have any of you had an invention in your head?
Do you have an invention in your head?
Yes.
What?
Do you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
What you're using today that everybody uses today? We thought about this 12 to 15 years ago. And they laughed at us. They laughed that nobody would ever use virtual anything. They laughed that you don't watch sports on your phone. Major League Baseball laughed at me. The NFL laughed at me. And the invention was to show how virtual reality can work with radio stations. That you could do it on streamlining like Hulu and Amazon. None of that was around in the day. There was no Facebook either. And they laughed. But I didn't have the money to do what's going on now. If I had, I'd be retired. I wouldn't be sitting here. Be done. So it was an idea that didn't happen.
That's what happens to most of us. We all have ideas, but we just don't follow through on them. So most people have an idea in their head, and I guess I just learned how to do it.
That's
Because
amazing.
I don't want to have somebody else invent it, and 12 years later I say, boy, I had that idea too.
And
So
I
why
love
don't
your
you-
story. I love the story that you did this while you were teaching. You had your students doing a project, and you did a project for yourself at the same time.
Right, because I taught technical writing, and all of my students were engineers and computer science majors. They're brilliant. And so for part of the technical writing class, I would have them write for their career, their chosen career. I would have them write a brochure for their career. And as they were doing it, I wrote one for my own, for tip and split. And then I had them write an instruction manual, because you always need to do that in technical writing. You have to know how to write instructions. So I wrote the instruction manual for tip and split while I was teaching. And every time I would give them an assignment, I would give myself the assignment. That's why I retired. I had so many things to do, and I got tired of pulling all-nighters grading their papers. So I retired, so I could devote myself. So that's what I did.
You've done incredible things. And what's the price point on the tip and split?
It's $19.95.
Which is reasonable.
Totally reasonable. And can you replace the battery in it?
Yeah, it comes with the battery. It comes with the battery. My only problem is that I'm selling it on Amazon, and it comes with a little battery protector in the back, so it can, stay fresh on the shelf. I've had a few returns, and when they come back, the battery protector's still in. So people are not used to they're used to, like, you had your own batteries. I put them in. So if you have the battery protector and you push the buttons, nothing happens.
You got to take the battery protector out, everybody.
You gotta get, what's that machine we have that does the lettering?
A label maker?
A label maker. Put a label maker on the glass, remove battery protector. So you
Yeah,
guys-
well, that's a good idea because I didn't know how to do it. I don't want to have that, take over the packaging. But,
I am guilty of something like that, and I sent it back, and they called me, and very guilty. I sent the camera back one day. The company called me, and they said it doesn't work. I says, I know, that's why I sent it back to you. You didn't take the battery protector
And
out.
then they told you you wouldn't turn it on.
They charged me $100.
Remember that? They said you hadn't turned
Really?
it on the right way.
well, it's a little bit hard being an inventor because I didn't ever think that people would not know. It was just sticking out in the back, and you'd think that you just pull it up, but people don't know to do that.
Connie,
So
I
when I
love your
send
story.
you yours, I'll take the battery protector out,
There you go.
so you don't have to worry. Especially Freddie, I'll take out your battery protector.
And bada boom.
Most definitely, yes.
I got a lot of people now around me that sort of laugh at it. You know what it is, Connie? As you get older, you get wiser. A friend called me. She says, can you show me how to work a microwave? I said, put the water in. Okay. What do you do now? She puts the numbers in. She says, but it doesn't start. I said, do you see the button that says start? So she couldn't see the letters. It's the reason why she didn't start the microwave. It wasn't that she didn't know. She couldn't. She was like, which one is it? Until I gave her a magnifying glass. Oh, there it is. Whoop!
So
I'm
this
done.
tip and split you can use for a lot of things.
I'm going to tell you. I got a whole lot of homes for this thing. Just for microwave use.
I use it all the time, especially if I want to take some medicine. I can't read it. It's so small, I can't see how many pills I'm supposed to take. So I can just hold my tip and split. And that might be my next invention. I've been thinking about it, to put something that you can attach to a bottle of aspirin. Well, aspirin, we know how many to take.
Well,
But something
read
that
it.
you
It'll read
get from the pharmacy on how to read it.
It has
So
it has a code reader. You put a code reader on it.
Now magnifying glass she wants with a light.
Do you know that my father used to take his pills by the color and the shape of the pill? I said, Dad, what are you taking today? The blue one, the yellow one, the red one? That's the way they take pills.
Except when they change the colors, it's a problem.
No, they
Yeah, unless the colors are all white, that's when it's.
And Connie, before we go, tell us about your second book.
Oh, yeah, my second book is something that I started during COVID. Because of my age, I'm 72 years old, okay? Nobody told me I'm too old to be inventing. So I didn't go out. I rarely go out, mainly just to the grocery store. But I decided, what can I do that doesn't require me to go outside? So I spent a few weeks going through all my photo albums and shoeboxes filled with pictures, because in those days we didn't have a smartphone. So I gathered all of my pictures and I made a book of my life. And actually I was inspired by Kobe Bryant because he died in January. And everybody, he's got, kids, one of his daughters died with him in the accident. But everybody's going to know about his life because he was so famous and social media and everything. But who's going to know about me? So I decided I want people to know about me after I'm gone. So I wrote my book. Now, because I'm a writer, this is my book. That's me when I was about 2. And my book is
Big book.
really easy to write because it's mostly based on pictures with some captions. So because I was a writing teacher, I decided to go back to my roots of writing, and teaching, and so now I'm helping other people write their life story in pictures and captions.
You could do
And
that.
I don't have any pictures.
you want to do it?
He needs to do it, Connie.
I don't have any pictures, Connie.
Well, even if you don't have pictures, you can always do it without pictures. For example, for my college, I went to the internet and found a picture of my college, and I put it there. And I took pictures. I went to the internet. I used to work at an amusement park called Cedar Point, and I loved it. and I went to the internet and I looked up Cedar Point, and that's in my book, a picture of the roller coasters at Cedar Point. And I also used some pictures from the phone for current. And what I'm doing with this, the reason I'm doing this book is to share it with my children and my grandchildren. For example, my grandson, who's 8, is learning about the justices of the Supreme Court because we have a hearing going on. And I showed him my book, and on one page of my book, I have about my mother, who's been dead for about 12 years. But my mother was the first female law student at the University of Minnesota in the late 1930s. And she went to two of her professors were, what are their names? I actually have a picture of it in my book. Can you see? This is my mother's 50-year reunion.
Wow.
And two of her professors were Chief Justice Warren Burger and Justice Harry Blackmun.
Wow.
So I told that to my grandson so he could talk to his teacher about it on Zoom. So how would he know that? Because of my book. So I'm sharing with them so many stories from my life. One of them that I never knew, which is so interesting. Am I taking up too much time?
No, you've got him thinking, is why he's sitting here quietly.
I'm listening.
So after I started doing research about my family, I found out from one of my cousins that my mother's parents came to the U.S. from Poland in 1912, and they had to cancel their trip because my grandma had morning sickness, and the trip that they canceled was on the Titanic. So
Amazing.
I didn't even know about that. I learned about it when I was doing some research because I didn't have pictures.
Wow.
So I contacted some of my family members who had pictures. So I gathered up so many pictures from my past. And, you know, my grandson is a real fan of the Titanic. And he's always looking up stories and YouTubes about the Titanic. So I showed him the picture of my grandparents. Wait a second, let me just show you this. This is my mother. This is my grandparents. Can you see that?
Yep. Oh.
That's my grandparents. That's a picture of them when they were first married. And they were supposed to be on the Titanic. And I would have never been born. So I have so many stories that I'm sharing with my grandchildren that they absolutely love.
Connie, your stories are unbelievable. I am so glad that we got your sound connected because you're an inspiration on so many levels. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I really enjoy telling my stories, mainly because of my age. Because like a lot of people think that once you're past 60 or past 50, you're kind of like dead. And I'm here to show them that you're not, you're actually, you know, nobody told me that I can't do these things at my age. Nobody told me.
We get better with age.
I'm
Yeah.
really depressed.
Why? I'm 53-ish and you're a little bit older.
You know, it's funny, honey, because I used to tell my boys they had a great grandmother, and I wanted them to sit down and record history through her. She was born in 1901 or whatever it was, 1899, I don't know, it was way back. And they didn't do that, right? Now I look and the kids bring in here, remember when you used to put a record at 45 and it had a little disc in there? One of the kids wears it on a hat. And everybody was like, what is that? A record player, an 8-track player. All of a sudden, I'm looking at things that I use, and I'd be kind of sad because it isn't that you're old. You have all this knowledge and you want to share it, but you guys don't know what a record player is, do you?
Yes, we do.
Have
They're
you
back
seen it?
I have
again.
a record player.
Yes, I do.
They're
Do you
back
have
again.
one? Oh, you have a throwback now.
Yeah, they're actually very popular right
They
now.
kind of like, you know
Yes.
what a vinyl disc is? A vinyl record?
No, I have
Right,
one
so
that's
you
like,
can back it
or basically my
But
brother
now
has
it's a
one that's
throwback. In the
Bluetooth.
day, that's what we used to use. I just read that breaks my heart. The greatest second baseman in the history of the Cincinnati Reds passed away. Joe Morgan died last night at the age of 77. And it sends chills through my body because that was my father's greatest baseball player. He used to flap his arm. He used to call it the Morgan flap. And he died last night at the age of 77. And I look around and all the people over the weekend that died. Also, the baseball player from the Yankees and the Dodgers
He
died.
was like 91 though. Right?
91, yes, but my history around me is dying. That's what's killing me. Everything that I grew up on, that I learned, my work ethic, all these players are dying. All these famous movie stars are dying. And that's what's so sad. So I understand when you say, I want people to remember my legend. I want people to remember who I was. They make fun of me because we have a company called Dignity Memorial. And I said to Dignity, who does the presidents and the kings, that my resting place, I want a party. I want you to remember me as a guy who wanted to have fun, right? And this is why. And this thing with Joe Morgan is just, it just shocks me. Of all the people, when Tom Seaver died, again, these are legends. People who
So
made who I am.
Since you're talking about baseball, I have to tell you somebody who inspired me. Satchel Paige.
Oh,
We
geez.
just had his picture.
We just had his picture.
Really?
The man.
Yes.
So the reason he inspires me is because I learned about him, and he became a rookie baseball player at age 42, which is unheard of. And he talked about it. He said, nobody told me I was too old to do that. So 42 is, very young, but for baseball, it's old. So, so that's an inspiration to me.
Satchel
Connie,
Paige
you,
is a great.
you are an inspiration to me, and I think for so many people, because you retired because you had more to do, and you did it. And we live in South Florida, so the retirement age here is pretty high in South Florida where we are. And what happens is people stop doing because they can retire financially. And then what happens is their body just shuts down because they stop doing things that they're passionate about. I love your story.
Thank you. Well, one of my favorite quotes is, passion has no expiration date. How do you like that? You can
like
be
that.
passionate at any age.
Yes.
How do we get all of your information? How do we get your books, your tip and split, and find out more? But how can people get in touch with you and get all of these great things?
Thank you. So I made a website, and I'm learning all this stuff. It's not easy at my age, but technology is challenging. So actually, if you go to grandmapreneurinventor.com, I have on there, I made sort of an umbrella. On there, I have tip and split, so you can read about my product. And I also have, if you can learn all about it. I also have a link to my project about writing your life story. It's called Write Your Selfie. And I chose that name because young people are into selfies. But, so old people can write their selfie.
I love it.
Because we don't do the selfies. So because I'm an inventor, I come up with some ideas. So I trademarked the name Write Your Selfie. And if you sign up to Write Your Selfie, you get some free tips on how to get started. And if you go to Grandmapreneur, they're all under Grandmapreneur Inventor. And if you subscribe, you get my book.
Connie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so
Thank
excited
you.
that we got to meet, and wow, more to come.
I'm so excited to meet you guys. Okay,
Have a great
I love
day.
your show.
Thank you so
you,
much.
Connie.
Have a wonderful day. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.